Desperation is the death of respect. The moment you act like you need someone more than they need you, you've already lost. When a man reaches out after disappearing, ignoring you, playing games, or wasting your time, and you instantly jump at the chance to respond, you're showing your hand and it's weak. You think you're being kind, understanding, maybe even strong for taking the high road. But that's not how it registers in his mind. It reads as desperation. It reads as, I've been waiting around for you to care again. Let's be clear, when a man ghosts you, vanishes or loses interest, and then comes back around, it's not because he's had some great emotional awakening. 9 times out of 10, he's bored, lonely, or looking to see if you're still available, still on the hook. You think this is a second chance. He thinks this is a test. He's trying to figure out if you have any self-respect. If you respond instantly, if you welcome him back like nothing happened, you've answered that question loud and clear. Every time you act desperate, you kill your value. Value is about scarcity. It's about discipline. It's about being selective. If you're easy to reach, easy to win over, easy to manipulate, then you're not valuable, you're replaceable. Desperation screams that you don't believe you can do better. It says you're operating from a place of fear, not power, and the harsh truth, men can smell that. They can sense when you've been emotionally starving, waiting for a crumb of attention. The moment you act like his return is your rescue, you've given him all the leverage. Think about it. Would a queen drop everything to entertain someone who previously disrespected her throne? No, she wouldn't even look twice. But when you act desperate, you send the message that your standards were fake, your boundaries were performative, and your self-worth is entirely dependent on his attention. He'll clock that in seconds. He might come back for the thrill, for the validation, or for the ego boost, but trust this, he won't stay. You just became easy, you just became familiar, and the chase is over. Men don't respect women who are always available. They don't respect women who bend the moment they call. They respect women who stay grounded in their standards, who know their worth and are willing to walk away. If he left once, he'll do it again. But if you act like he's doing you a favor by coming back, then you've just handed him permission to treat you like an option. He'll never see you as the prize. He'll never elevate his game. Why should he? You already showed him he doesn't have to try. You answered fast. You forgave too easily. You didn't make him earn his way back. Desperation shows up in your tone, your timing, your words. It shows up when you break your silence out of fear he'll forget you. It shows up when you accept breadcrumbs because you're afraid there won't be anything else. You start giving him more value than he gives himself. You elevate a man who barely meets the bare minimum, all because you think this is your only shot. That's not love. That's fear in disguise. Closure is a trap. It's a lie you tell yourself to justify reopening a door that should have stayed shut. When a man who left you, ghosted you, or chose someone else suddenly reaches out, your first instinct might be to chase answers. Why did he leave? What changed? What does he want now? You think if you get those answers, you'll feel peace. But here's the truth. You don't need answers. You need standards. You need discipline. You need control over your frame, the reality you live in, not the one he tries to sell you. When you go searching for closure, you're handing over the power. You're saying, I can't move on until you tell me how to feel. That's weakness. That's emotional dependence. That's putting your healing, your self-worth, and your dignity in someone else's hands, someone who already showed you they don't value you the way they should. Real strength isn't found in polite conversations and final goodbyes. It's found in silence, in walking away without a performance, in choosing yourself without needing applause. He's not reaching out to give you clarity. He's reaching out to see if he still has access. If you take the bait and start asking questions, hoping for honesty, hoping for some grand explanation, you've already lost control of the frame. Now he's the one steering the narrative. He gets to define the past, shape the present, and influence your future. All because you wanted closure. But closure doesn't come from him. It comes from the moment you decide his behavior isn't up for discussion, it's just unacceptable. Chasing closure looks like curiosity, but it's really emotional weakness. You're not trying to understand, you're trying to stay connected. You think that if you can just understand why, you'll be able to accept it. But even if he gives you a reason, it won't bring peace. Because deep down, it was never about the reason. It was about the rejection. It was about your ego. It was about feeling discarded and wanting to know that it wasn't your fault. But you don't need a man's words to validate your worth. You validate yourself by how you respond when he resurfaces. Controlling the frame means you decide the rules of engagement. You don't react emotionally. You don't explain your silence. You don't fall into his tempo. You create the tempo. You decide who deserves access and who doesn't. If he left you in confusion, if he vanished without explanation, that was the explanation. That was the closure. His lack of effort, his lack of respect, his silence, those are all the answers you need. But you miss that when you're busy looking for deeper meaning in behavior that already disrespected you. Men test women to see if the door is still open. If you entertain him under the illusion of getting closure, he knows he still owns real estate in your head. He knows he can spin whatever story he wants, and you'll sit there, emotionally invested, hoping to finally understand. That's how you lose. That's how you get pulled back into cycles. You start explaining yourself, defending your standards, trying to make him see your worth when the right move was to never give him a seat at your table again. Control the frame. Don't react. Don't chase meaning in a mess he created. Let your silence define the boundaries. Let your lack of interest speak louder than your words ever could. Silence isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's not fear. Silence is calculated control. It's discipline. It's confidence without the need for performance. When a man who disappeared, disrespected you, or played games suddenly reaches out, your instinct might be to reply, to say something, to prove you've moved on, that you're unaffected, or that you have the upper hand. But true power doesn't explain itself. It doesn't announce its presence. It doesn't argue. Silence is what makes them question everything. It's what creates mystery, doubt, and curiosity, three things that are far more powerful than any long-winded response. When you go silent, you take the frame, you stop giving him validation, you stop feeding his ego, and that's when the dynamic flips. The second you respond, he knows he still has access, even if you're angry. Even if your message is, "I don't want to talk," that's still a reply. That still gives him energy. It tells him you're still emotionally invested. Silence, on the other hand, offers him nothing, no reassurance, no confirmation, no emotional hit. It forces him to sit in the emptiness he created and wonder what it means. That discomfort, that confusion, that's the leverage. Most people can't handle silence because they're addicted to reaction. They need validation, they need to feel seen. But when you operate from a position of true self-respect, you don't need to respond to gain power, you already have it. You control the outcome by not engaging, not explaining, not falling into emotional traps. Every time you break your silence for someone who didn't respect you the first time, you give them another chance to misread your value. You give them another opportunity to lower the bar, and worse, you train them to believe that silence is only temporary. Silence is not about playing games. It's about standards. It's about creating distance from behavior that doesn't deserve your attention. When you respond to disrespect, you normalize it. When you respond to inconsistency, you reward it. Silence is how you communicate that certain actions are non-negotiable. No yelling, no crying, no drama. Just absence, just void. Just a closed door with no explanation. That's how you make a point without ever raising your voice. And here's the truth. If your silence doesn't bother him, your presence never mattered. That's your answer. You don't need to fight for clarity. You don't need to remind him of what he lost. Silence will do that for you if he cares, and if he doesn't, then what exactly are you fighting for? Silence forces reality to reveal itself. It doesn't distort the truth with emotion. It doesn't dress it up with words. It shows you, clearly and without filter, who values you and who doesn't. The person who stays silent holds the higher ground. Not because they're emotionless, but because they're not ruled by emotion. They choose strategy over impulse. They understand that reaction is cheap, but silence is expensive. And when you become the one who doesn't flinch, who doesn't explain, who doesn't run to respond, you automatically shift the dynamic. Now he has to wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what your silence means. And in that space of uncertainty, your value multiplies. Respect isn't given on demand, it's earned, and more importantly, it's remembered. People might forget what you said, they might forget what you did, but they will never forget how you allowed them to treat you. When you let someone walk all over your boundaries and then welcome them back like nothing happened, you've told them exactly how little they need to do to stay in your life. That memory sticks, that imprint doesn't fade. You might forgive, you might move on, but the level of respect they once had for you is forever altered. When a man ghosts you, lies to you, ignores you, plays with your emotions, and then later reaches out acting like it's normal, understand something. This isn't a reset. This isn't a new chapter. This is him checking to see if you still tolerate the old version of him. If you respond like everything's cool, like you've just been waiting for him to come to his senses, he will clock that. He'll register that you have short-term memory when it comes to self-worth, and from that moment the respect he might have had before is gone. It won't come back just because he's charming again. It won't return because you explain your feelings or try to re-establish your boundaries after the fact. He already saw the gap. He already learned what you'll accept. Respect is tied to consistency. If your standards change based on how lonely you are, how long it's been, or how good his apology sounds, you don't have standards, you have preferences. That's not power. That's emotional flexibility that bends under pressure. And once someone sees that, they don't treat you like a queen, they treat you like an option, because you showed them that no matter how badly they behave, there's still a way back in. All they have to do is wait you out. Wait until you miss them. Wait until you break your own rules. Then walk right back in like nothing ever happened. People don't rise to meet your words. They respond to the precedent you set. If the precedent is that you forgive disrespect without requiring real accountability, then that's exactly how they'll treat you every time. You can write long messages about what hurt you. You can give emotional speeches about your worth, but none of it matters if your actions contradict it. The brain remembers patterns, not speeches. It remembers how easy it was to walk away from you and how easy it was to come back. That's the memory you're creating every time you fold. You want respect. Then stop handing out second chances like they're candy. You want to be taken seriously. Then stop acting like history doesn't matter. Every interaction builds a reputation not just for them, but for you. Your reputation is based on how you handle disrespect. Do you disappear and stay gone? Or do you flinch the moment they show interest again? Do you reinforce your standards with action? Or do you negotiate with people who already showed you their true colors? You don't erase a memory of disrespect by pretending it didn't happen. You don't heal by forgetting. You heal by remembering what happened and making sure it never happens again. People don't respect perfection. They respect consistency. They respect when you stand on your values, even when it hurts, even when you're tempted, especially when it's hard, because then they know your respect isn't cheap. Your time isn't cheap. Your love isn't cheap. It has a cost. It has standards, and once someone knows the price, they either rise to meet it or they walk away knowing you're not for sale. Discipline is the difference between being wanted and being respected. Anyone can be wanted for attention, for comfort, for convenience, but respect, that's earned through the choices you make when no one's watching. When a man contacts you after treating you like an option, how you respond defines your value. Not to him, to yourself, because your value isn't found in how pretty you are, how sweet you sound, or how forgiving you can be. It's found in your discipline, your ability to stick to your standards even when temptation knocks. Anyone can say they're done. Anyone can post a quote about self-love, but discipline is revealed in the moments when it would be easy to fold, when you feel lonely, when he finally says something you've been waiting to hear, when he shows up acting different, sounding remorseful, suddenly seeing your worth. That's when discipline counts. If you fold the moment it feels good, then your worth was just a concept, not a conviction. Real discipline doesn't bend under pressure. It doesn't get emotional. It doesn't forget what happened just because something new feels better. Discipline is what separates women who get played from women who stay powerful. It's not about having no feelings, it's about not letting your feelings control your moves. When you told yourself you were done with inconsistency, that you wouldn't tolerate mixed signals, disrespect, or breadcrumbs that meant something. Or it should have. The moment you take him back without making him earn a second chance, you've told him your boundaries were only temporary. You've told him your self-respect is up for negotiation depending on the mood. And once he knows that it's over, men don't respect women who break their own rules. They might enjoy the moment, they might play along, but deep down they've clocked it. They know you'll say one thing and do another. They know all it takes is the right message at the right time. That's not value, that's vulnerability, and not the kind that builds connection, but the kind that signals weakness. Discipline is the wall that protects you from going back to what broke you. It's not there to make you cold. It's there to keep you focused. A disciplined woman isn't reactive. She doesn't jump at every notification. She doesn't rush to reply because her emotions are screaming. She takes a step back, assesses the pattern, and remembers who she is. She's not chasing validation, she's maintaining standards. She's not getting pulled into conversations she already walked away from. She's not giving a second chance to a man who failed to appreciate the first one. She understands that attention is cheap, but respect is rare, and discipline is what protects it. The world is full of women who settle for temporary feelings over long-term self-worth. Discipline is what separates you from them. Discipline says, I don't care how much I miss you, I'm not lowering my standard. Discipline says, if I said I'm done, then I'm done even if my heart still wants to believe the lie. That's not cold. That's powerful, because once a man sees that your emotions don't override your principles, he understands you're not like the rest. You're not here to entertain games. You're here to be respected or removed. The second you start chasing, explaining, justifying, or overextending yourself for someone who already made you feel like an option, you've forgotten who you are. You are the prize, but if you don't act like it, no one else will either. Being the prize isn't about arrogance or pretending you're better than anyone. It's about knowing your value and refusing to give it away to someone who hasn't earned it. If a man disappears and comes back expecting the same access, and you give it to him, you've devalued yourself in his eyes and, more importantly, in your own. A man will only treat you the way you show him you accept being treated. If you welcome him back without question, if you excuse the ghosting, the disrespect, or the inconsistency, you're not acting like a prize, you're acting like a backup plan. A true prize doesn't lower itself to be chosen. It stands firm, it commands effort, consistency, and clarity, because anything that comes easy is taken for granted. The more available you make yourself to someone who hasn't proven they deserve it, the less they feel they need to earn you. That's when you start getting breadcrumbs. That's when the effort drops, because you taught him he doesn't have to try. When you know you're the prize, your actions reflect that truth. You don't chase someone who walked away. You don't justify someone's absence. You don't reply the moment they resurface. You sit back, you observe, you decide. You understand that not every message deserves a reply, and not every apology deserves a second chance. You've done the work, you've grown, you bring peace, value, loyalty, and presence to the table. That's not something to be handed over for free, that's something to be earned. Acting like the prize means you don't let your emotions override your standards. It means you're not scared to walk away. It means you're not waiting for someone to validate your worth because your worth is already settled. It's not up for negotiation. You don't tolerate being treated like an option because you're not one. You don't let loneliness trick you into entertaining people who already showed you they don't deserve your time. You stand tall in your solitude because you'd rather be alone with your self-respect than accompanied in confusion. Men chase what they value. If you're always available, always forgiving, always ready to entertain someone who vanished the second it got hard, then you're not being valued, you're being used. The prize doesn't chase. The prize doesn't explain. The prize doesn't need to prove a point. Its presence is the point. So when someone comes back around, the first question isn't, does he still want me? It's, does he deserve another chance at this? And if you're honest with yourself, most of the time the answer is no. You don't elevate someone who dropped you. You don't reward inconsistency with attention. You don't fall back into familiarity just because it feels good for a moment. You are the prize. That means you move with purpose. You protect your energy. You don't rush to respond. You don't soften just because they finally noticed what they lost. Because if they truly saw your value, they never would have risked losing it in the first place.